My name is William E. Braxton, and I'm 80 years old. I live alone in the house I built with my own two hands more than 60 years ago. A modest two-bedroom place in Stillwater, quiet and neighborly, the kind of town where change is slow and strangers are noticed. My days follow a disciplined rhythm. Breakfast at 6 a.m., a walk to the post office at 6:30 sharp, cane tapping along the sidewalk, 45 minutes there and back. Lunch is always at noon. And then, the best part. I retreat to the little workshop behind the kitchen, where I still repair watches and clocks, despite the stubborn limitations left behind by the stroke I suffered 2 years ago. The left side of my body may be slower, but my right hand still knows its craft. The ticking of time has always soothed me, maybe because I could control it, one mechanism at a time. My life is quiet, predictable, just the way I like it. Tuesday, May 15th should have been no different. I was just finishing up the escapement on an antique pocket watch when I heard the crunch of tires on gravel outside. I pulled back the curtain and saw a sleek black SUV pulling into my driveway. Too clean, too shiny, too out of place. Then the doors opened and my heart caught in my chest. Emily, my daughter, and her husband, Travis. I hadn't seen them in nearly a year, not since my 81st birthday, when they came late and left early. Now, here they were, standing side by side like they were posing for a stage photo, wearing smiles that didn't reach their eyes. "Dad," Emily exclaimed as I opened the door, her voice forced and overly bright. "We thought we'd surprise you." "You certainly did," I replied, trying to keep my tone even. Travis gave me a firm pat on the shoulder, more jarring than affectionate. Inside, they looked around the house like inspectors. Their gazes paused on every detail: the antique clocks, the framed photographs, the walnut furniture polished by years of use. "It's so cozy," Emily said, and I heard what she meant. Old-fashioned, small, outdated. But this house is mine, built with my own hands for Margaret, my late wife, the place where we raised Emily. Every board, every nail, laid down with purpose. My entire life is in these walls. I made tea while they settled into the living room. Their voices were low, hushed. When I returned with the tray, the conversation stopped like a switch had been thrown. "What's this really about?" I asked. They deflected. Small talk. "Work was hectic," Travis said vaguely. Emily asked about my health. For the first time in years. It wasn't concern, it was evaluation. That night, they insisted on cooking dinner, chicken and vegetables, well done but lacking soul. Afterward, Travis announced they were staying the night. "We brought a change of clothes," he said, too casually. It didn't sit right with me. Later, I heard them whispering in the kitchen. "The house is old," Travis said, "but the neighborhood's good. A decent realtor could sell it for a lot." "He won't go willingly," Emily whispered back. "But if we push him gently, Quiet Harbor is clean, safe. He'll be better off." "He's not the same since the stroke. He slurs sometimes. Maybe early dementia?" Travis added. I stood in the dark, my pill bottle clenched in my fist. They weren't worried about me. They were planning to take my house, to get rid of me, to put me in a home. They had no idea I'd heard everything. No idea I wasn't the helpless old man they thought I was. I'd built this house, and I wasn't giving it up without a fight. Emily and Travis were unusually cheerful. They cooked dinner, something they'd never done for me before, and insisted I relax in the armchair while they took care of everything. Their fake warmth didn't fool me, not for a second. After the meal, Travis casually said, "We brought overnight bags. Hope it's okay if we stay." "Guest room's upstairs," I replied. I smiled, but my stomach turned. That night, I pretended to sleep. From my room, I heard their voices drifting from the kitchen. Emily's tone was low but clear. He didn't suspect anything, she said. I already made the down payment. Quiet Harbor has a room ready in 2 weeks. Travis, you sure he'll sign? If not, we can talk guardianship. He slurs sometimes. Might even pass for early dementia. They laughed softly. The house will sell fast, Emily added, and the Buick's worth a fortune. I sat in the dark, heart pounding. They were planning to put me away, quietly, for my own good, and sell off everything I'd built. They thought I was too old, too weak to stop them. They were wrong. I didn't sleep a wink. At dawn, I made coffee, sat in my kitchen, and stared at the old clock on the wall, the one I'd repaired for Margaret our first year in the house. Its ticking was the only sound in a place that no longer felt like mine. As soon as Emily and Travis left, smiles, hugs, promises to talk soon, I walked across the street to Esther Prime's house. Esther and I had been neighbors for over 20 years. Honest, dependable, the kind of woman who called when your porch light was left on too long. She opened the door before I reached the step. They gone? She asked, hands on her hips. I nodded. Esther, I need to talk. Inside her cozy kitchen, I told her everything. The visit, the fake smiles, the overheard conversation about Quiet Harbor, and the plans to sell my house and car. Esther's face darkened as she listened. They're planning to put you in a home? She asked. Without your consent? I nodded. Esther didn't hesitate. We're calling Ruth. Her daughter, Ruth, worked as an administrator at Quiet Harbor. Esther dialed and put the phone on speaker. Within minutes, Ruth confirmed it. Yes, she said, typing rapidly on her end. And Emily Braxton and her husband contacted us 3 days ago. They toured the facility and put down a deposit. Your name is on the file. My stomach dropped. Has anything been signed? I asked. Number not yet, Ruth replied. But they scheduled an appointment next Monday to bring documents, medical records, possibly to request guardianship if you refuse. I gripped the edge of the table. So it's real. I'm afraid so, Ruth said gently. But don't worry. As long as you're mentally competent, and I know you are, they can't force anything without a court order. When we hung up, I sat back, dazed. But something inside me was sharpening. Not fear, not grief, but resolve. Esther poured me another cup of coffee. You always said Emily changed when she married that man. I nodded slowly. She's in debt. I know it now. They're trying to liquidate me. Esther set her hand over mine. Then we'll find out exactly how much trouble they're in, and you'll be ready when they come back. That afternoon, I walked over to Seth Falls's house. Seth, my neighbor to the right, was a retired lawyer and still sharp as a tack. If anyone could dig into Travis's background, it was him. Seth rubbed his chin, concerned. They're laying the groundwork for guardianship. That's no accident. That kind of move takes preparation. Can you find out why? I asked. What's driving this? He nodded. I have a few contacts downtown. Leave it with me. The next day, Seth called me over. His face said everything before he spoke. Your daughter's in trouble, he said quietly. She and her husband owe over $130,000. Most of it to a private casino in Bismarck, the rest to unsecured lenders. The bad kind. People you don't negotiate with twice. I felt a coldness settle over me. Seth continued. They're desperate. Fast cash is the only thing that'll keep them out of the hospital, or worse. That's why they're trying to liquidate your estate. It's not about nursing homes. It's about survival. I left his house and took the long way home, circling my quiet neighborhood where kids rode bikes and sprinklers watered tidy lawns. Everything looked the same, but nothing was. That night, I made my decision. If Emily was drowning, I wasn't going to let her drag me down too. But maybe I could keep her from sinking completely. I stayed up until 2 a.m. drafting a plan. The next morning, I called an old friend, Marvin Ellison, a notary who owed me a few favors. We met that afternoon. By evening, I'd signed the paperwork to sell the house privately to a local preservation trust, a quiet deal, no flashy listing, no realtors. The money would be wired to an account in my name only. The Buick? I sold that too. A collector in Fargo paid in cash. Then I withdrew every cent from my checking and savings accounts and moved it to a secure credit union under a new trustee structure. Only I could access it. I left a small account in my will for Emily, just enough for her to see she hadn't been disowned, but not enough to tempt her into further destruction, a symbolic inheritance. The rest would go to a scholarship fund in Margaret's name. The documents I kept in a locked box under the floorboards in my workshop, right beneath the workbench. Only Esther and Seth knew where to find them. Finally, I wrote Emily a note. Emily, you chose desperation over honesty. I understand fear. I even understand debt. But I cannot forgive betrayal. The house is gone. The car is sold. The accounts are empty. You won't find anything here but the truth. I loved you. I still do. But you won't decide my ending. Dad. I sealed it in an envelope marked for Emily and placed it on the kitchen table. Then I made arrangements to disappear, at least for a while. I thought I'd prepared for everything. I hadn't counted on my own body giving out. The stress, the late nights, the anger, it caught up with me like a freight train. One morning, I collapsed in the kitchen. Esther found me on the floor an hour later, barely conscious. I woke up in Stillwater General, hooked up to an IV, feeling as though the air itself weighed too much. Doctors said it was a hypertensive crisis brought on by exhaustion. You need rest, they said. Peace. Emily showed up that evening, eyes wide with concern and lips too carefully pursed. Oh, Dad, she sighed, brushing my hair back like she used to when I was sick with the flu as a child. We're going to take care of everything now. I looked at her, dazed. She saw a feeble old man, helpless, compliant, exactly what I wanted her to see. The next day, she returned with Travis and a stack of documents. This is for your safety, she said gently, sliding them onto the tray beside my untouched soup. It's just permission for Quiet Harbor to admit you. I squinted at the paper, then nodded slowly. What's that one? I asked, pointing. Travis leaned in. That's the release for the car sale. We figured it's too dangerous for you to drive. Better to let someone else take care of it. And this? I asked, holding up the third. Power of attorney, Emily said, almost whispering. Just so we can handle your accounts while you recover. I looked at her, blinking slowly, pretending not to understand. Okay, I mumbled. They relaxed visibly. Travis even smiled. I signed all three. My hands shook, but not from confusion, from the weight of the performance. They thought they'd won. That night, I lay in my hospital bed staring at the ceiling tiles, planning my next move. Quiet Harbor would be my prison, for a little while. Just long enough. After I'd settled in, I'd escape. I'd already made the arrangements. Ruth knew. Seth knew. Esther would handle the logistics. Once I left the facility, I'd finalize the sale of the house, withdraw the last of my assets, and disappear quietly. And I'd leave Emily her inheritance, exactly what she earned. An old wristwatch with the inscription, "Time can't be stolen." A framed photo of our family on the porch with a sticky note, "You sold this memory for a deposit." And a box of Margaret's favorite books, marked, "You had a mother once." She wouldn't be proud. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. The truth, boxed and labeled. Quiet Harbor was everything they promised. Clean, calm, and completely suffocating. I arrived by ambulance, Emily clucking with fake concern while Travis filled out the final forms. They left me with a pat on the shoulder and a condescending, "Rest up, Dad." The door closed behind them, and I stared at the floral wallpaper. This wasn't a home. It was a waiting room for death. But I wasn't staying. At 5:30 the next morning, Ruth arrived at the back entrance wearing scrubs and a nurse's badge that wasn't hers. "You ready?" she asked. "I've been ready since I signed those papers." We slipped out the staff door, Ruth guiding me through the employee lot to her car, an old station wagon that rattled but ran like a charm. No one stopped us. No one even noticed. By the time they realized I was gone, I was halfway to the border of the county. Meanwhile, Emily returned to my house. Or what used to be my house. The front door wouldn't open with her key. A young couple answered when she rang the bell. "I think you have the wrong address," the woman said politely. Emily's face turned pale. She called Travis. "The house is gone," she whispered. "It's been sold." They rushed to the bank. The accounts were closed. The car, missing from the garage. There was nothing left. Back at Ruth's home, a cozy little cottage on the edge of Stillwater, I sat at her kitchen table with a hot cup of tea. She slid a small metal key across the table. "Your inheritance box is in the side closet. You want me to deliver it?" I nodded. Emily received it 2 days later. A plain safe, unlocked with Ruth's key. Inside, she found a rusted toy train from her childhood, an empty ceramic piggy bank labeled "for college," 3 black and white photos of us, each signed in shaky handwriting. "This is what you lost." A folded letter, handwritten. "Emily, everything you wanted is gone because you tried to take what wasn't offered. You mistook my silence for weakness, my love for obedience, my age for defeat. This box is all that remains of your inheritance. Memories you sold, promises you broke, and the hollow price you paid. Goodbye." Dad, I never heard from her again. And that was fine, because I was free. Seth picked me up in his old Buick. Not mine, the one I sold, but his, still loyal after all these years. The trunk held 2 duffel bags, a cooler with sandwiches and ice, and a bottle of whiskey tucked under a blanket like contraband. He grinned at me over the roof. "You ready to disappear, old man?" "Been ready for years," I said, settling into the passenger seat. We didn't have a destination, just a direction. East, toward the ocean. I'd always told Margaret I'd take her to see the Atlantic again one day. She never got the chance, but I would, for both of us. We drove with the windows down, letting the wind scatter the silence between us. No rush, no guilt, no demands. Just 2 men in the twilight of life, with nothing left to lose and everything to remember. That night we stopped at a roadside motel, the kind with peeling paint and buzzing neon. It smelled like mildew and fried onions, but the beds were clean, and the room had a small balcony facing a field. Seth opened the whiskey, poured 2 glasses, and handed me one. "To freedom," he said. "To survival," I replied. We drank slow, reminiscing. About Margaret, about his late wife Janice, about the time we tried to fix my chimney ourselves and nearly set the roof on fire. We laughed until we wheezed. Just after midnight, my phone buzzed. A message from Esther. She opened the box today. Travis was furious. She cried, called it cruel, said it felt like being disowned. But then she sat with it for a long time, just sat. I think she finally understood. At least a little. I didn't reply, just stared at the screen. Seth looked over. "That from Esther?" I nodded. "About Emily." He poured another drink but didn't say anything. He knew. I felt no triumph, no joy, just a dull, heavy sadness that it had come to this. That a girl I once rocked to sleep now needed a warning carved in silence to see me clearly. "She was always too much like me," I muttered. "Maybe," Seth said, But you would have never done that to your father. I looked out across the dark field. Somewhere far away, waves were waiting. A new life, a quiet end. And for the first time in a long while, I wasn't afraid. We arrived at the ocean just as the sun was beginning to dip behind the waves. The sky was painted with soft orange and violet hues, and the salty breeze wrapped around me like a memory I didn't know I'd missed. The town was small, no traffic lights, just two cafes, a bait shop, and a bookstore that also sold muffins. The kind of place where strangers were still nodded at on the street, and nothing important happened without someone's mother hearing about it first. I found a cottage just beyond the dunes, pale blue siding, a wooden deck, and wide windows facing the sea. Modest, weathered, perfect. Seth stayed a couple nights to help me settle in. We replaced two light bulbs, fixed a leaky tap, and arranged the few belongings I'd kept. My tool set, Margaret's worn copy of The Old Man and the Sea, a single framed photograph of us on our wedding day. After he left, I stood on the porch for a long while, watching the tide creep in. For the first time in years, I felt light, not young, those days were gone, but clear. My body still ached, my hands still trembled when the weather turned, but my mind was mine again. No noise, no games, no people pretending to care while plotting to take. I made my own breakfast when I wanted, took walks when the fog lifted, fixed watches for locals who heard there's an old man near the dunes who still knows how to work with gears. They paid me in pies, fish, and stories. I never told them what I left behind. They never asked. One morning, I sat on the porch with a cup of black coffee and watched the waves roll in like steady breath, my breath. I thought of Emily briefly, then let the thought go. Because this quiet, salty, sun-streaked life, this was mine. At 80 years old, my life had started over, and this time, it was on my terms. It started with letters, postmarked from Stillwater, neat handwriting I hadn't seen since she was a teenager. Emily. She didn't know where I'd gone, but she was trying. Dad, I know you're angry. I was wrong. We were wrong. Please write back. I need to explain. I didn't reply. A week later, another arrived. I didn't do it for greed. Not really. We were drowning in debt. I was scared. Travis, he pushed it, but I let it happen. I'm sorry. Then came the phone calls. Esther let it slip to Ruth, who slipped it to someone else, and eventually Emily found the number to the small bookstore near the beach that sometimes forwarded messages to the old man who fixes clocks. Dad, please call me, one message said. I just want to hear your voice. I stood on my porch that evening, phone in hand, listening to the tide roll in. Then I dialed. She picked up on the first ring. Dad? Her voice cracked, thick with nerves and something that might have been guilt. I've been trying to find you. I know, I said softly. I'm sorry, she whispered. Truly. For everything. I didn't think, I just thought I could fix it. And now, I've lost you. There was silence. Then I said the only thing I could. I forgive you, Emily. A choked breath on the other end. But I won't come back, I continued, and I won't undo what's done. I understand, she said. I just wanted you to know I never stopped loving you. I know. Another pause. Are you okay? She asked finally. I looked at the waves, the sky, the peaceful edge of the world I'd built for myself. I'm okay, I said. I'm free. We said goodbye quietly, not with anger, not with promises, just acceptance. She'd made her choices. I'd made mine. And this time, they would stay exactly where they were.